And when you say hefty, I mean, again, what exactly is hefty, especially if you can just go ahead and increase a company's revenue?
Man, a lot of people don't focus on words. I focus on words because words mean what they mean. You got a month to make some money or you need to get a real job. And first week I made $400 and the money just never stopped in.
Owning any type of restoration business is demanding of your time, your energy, and resources. And that's why we're here. This is Restoration Domination. If you're a contractor in water mitigation, mold remediation, biohazard cleanup, roofers, or public adjusters, you'll learn how to dominate using some of the techniques and strategies that our guests will share. We'll interview top industry insiders, movers and shakers, hustlers and hackers, and anyone dominating their industry. This is Restoration Domination. Hustle, hack, and dominate. And here's your host, Rico Garcia.
All right, guys, what is going on? Welcome to another episode of Restoration Domination. Yo, let me tell you something. Today's a special day because I am going to bring an awesome guest on. Guy, I can guarantee you is going to be spitting some massive fire. For those of you that know anything about me, I am extremely passionate about sales, about mindset, about that grit, what you need in order to be successful in the people-to-people business, right? And today, our guest, I think, is probably one of the best guys to have on the show to talk about not only sales, but mindset, the importance of coaching. And anyways, so enough of that. Let me just bring him on. Dashaun Bryant, the roof hustler. Welcome to the show, brother. Are you ready to help us dominate today?
Yeah, man. Super pumped up about this. Appreciate you having me on, man. It's always an honor and a privilege to share the knowledge, the wisdom, the insight that we've gained over the last 6 years with, other people, communities, because people don't have to have you on these things, man. So it's an honor. I never take these lightly, man. So thank you so much.
Thank you, man. So we were talking a little bit about, your overall story, like off camera. So, just kind of fill us in, fill in some of the gaps on the intro, like, who are you? What exactly is it that you do?
So my name is Dashaun. I'm the creator, CEO of Roof Hustlers. We've been building the brand for the last 4 years. It's been 4 years, May 17th. And the brand got started due to a lack of training, a lack of coaching, a lack of, teaching. And kind of like you told me with your story, I was looking around. The first person I found was Becca Switzer, which shout out to her, really good friend of mine, I love her. But she was the only person there. And she didn't even give me the stuff that I was looking for. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to be the guy that get on YouTube and create the free information and make sure every salesman that got into the industry after me didn't have to struggle like I did. So that's how Roof Hustlers was, brought about. But I got into restoration sales 6 years ago, and that was a complete mistake. A really good friend of mine named Brian, we was at a bar just chilling. And he just saw the way that I vibe with different crowds. And he was like, man, I got a job I think you'd be great at. And at that time I was working at Sam's Club and we had a baby on the way. We didn't want to do daycare. We didn't figure out how it's going to work. So he offered me the opportunity, man. And he's like, once you get a car, you call me. I ended up getting a car like that February. And my son was born February 4th. I closed my first deal February 6th. And it was on and popping ever since then, man. And at the time, my kid's mom, she was like, you got a month to make some money or you need to get a real job. And first week I made $400 and the money just never stopped in. And now we're here 6 years later and you can't even put me on an hourly job, man.
A real job. How many of us entrepreneurs have heard that? Get a real job. When are you going to get a real job? Like what's the one thing that would upset me so much? And again, we were talking about this off camera. One of my very first jobs was as a currency broker, right? So basically I was just picking up the phone. I was smiling and dialing for dollars. And that was the thing, right? And I had to explain to my parents, they were like, hey, well, how much are you getting paid a week? I'm like, no. Like, you don't get it. Like, I'm dialing, they're giving me leads. I'm dialing. And if I close something, then I get paid. Like, that's how it works. I said, oh man, I don't know. You need to get a real job. Then of course you keep with it. And you hear like, girlfriends and the wives and the friends and everybody else like, get a real job until they see that like $50,000 commission, that $100,000 commission. all of a sudden, it's like, hey, Rico, you have such a great job. Hey, Dashaun, you have such a great job, right? Isn't that funny how that works?
It is, man. Well, last year I learned in the pandemic, it ain't no such thing as a real job, because all the people I know that I thought had real jobs, they got sent home, they got fired, they got let go, and they stopped making money. In the restoration industry, we doubled down. We made more money. So there's no such thing as job security, and at least in the world outside of what we do, because all the people I know, all my homies, all the people that do roof sales, they're making more money. They were still getting deals. They were still busy. While everybody else I know was sitting at home, pockets hurting, getting what is called unemployment checks, all of those things, and we was making more money. So after last year, I don't even know what a real job is. I just know my job is recession proof and it's pandemic proof. That's all I know.
Absolutely, man. I mean, first, when this whole COVID thing started to come around, I'm not gonna lie. At first minute there, I was like, "Ooh, I wonder how this is gonna affect everything." Right? Like, is everybody gonna be freaked out? And it was a complete opposite. Like, we were doing okay, but we went from okay to like a whole other level. We're like, "Oh wow, okay, cool." Don't ask me what. I mean, construction just blew up, roofing blew up. I mean, I guess people were just sitting around the house. It's like, hey. Now I'm seeing all this damage. I might as well fix it, right? So for us, on the restoration side, as far as water mitigation, mold remediation, and all of that stuff, our business just totally blew up from there. And from what I've heard, other people that weren't even marketing, they weren't even doing anything special. Like even their businesses, it was just an amazing time for people in our industry. So what got you hooked? Was it the money that got you hooked, or was it the climax of the sale? Like, what was it that got you hooked into knocking doors?
The thing that got me hooked more than anything was the time. I was like, wow, I can own my time. Like, I don't got to sit on a job 10 hours a day. I don't got to give a job 40 hours of my life. I don't got to get on the 40-40 plan. So the fact that I knew I could control my time, the money was nice. Don't get me wrong. I love making money because we make really good money doing what we do, where we, coaching and training other companies. But I've been a stay-at-home dad for 5.5 years doing sales. So that was always more precious to me than the money, was the time. Because my company was always been like, man, you should go knock more doors. You should go sell. I still sold 1 million plus, staying home with my kids every day. But they was like, man, you should get a babysitter. And you should go knock more doors, and, you can make more money. And I was like, nah, my kids only kids once. My baby's only going to be babies once. You know what I mean? And I've been to all my kids' doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, everything a part of their life I've been to. So the thing that grabbed me the most was the time. And I've learned being an entrepreneur, it's not about loving what you do, it's about loving the life that what you do creates. So I love the life that it allowed me to build. So to own my time was the biggest thing that got me, man. And then I was like, okay, I can produce a lot of results in half the time that most people work 8 hours. I could do that in 3 hours, 4 hours. And then I can have 10 hours of my life to spend with my family every day. Man, that was super attractive to me, man. And the money was nice. Like, I love the money too. The money awesome. The feeling of meeting a stranger and turning them into your best friend and getting 5-6 referrals out of them, that's awesome. But nothing beats being able to wake up to my kids every day, being able to just go to the park with them, being able to do whatever I want to do with them at any given time, never having to ask nobody for time off, none of those things. So owning my time was the biggest thing that really grabbed me.
Right. And that's, I think, one of the biggest appeals for the entrepreneur that gets into, let's say, the roofing, or that gets into the water mitigation, or any entrepreneurial venture, right, is the appeal of the time. Like, how not having to call out, not having to ask somebody, be like, hey, by the way, I kind of got this impromptu feeling that I want to. Prime example. I mean, I just brought the kids back from, I just told you, from Orlando and Tampa. I didn't have to pick up the phone and call nobody. We're like, hey, whatever clients I had, I'm like, hey, I'm going to get to you on X day. You good with that? Good. And if they would have said, no, I'm not good with that, I'm like, okay, well, it's good. I'm going anyways. So, yeah. So like, to have that freedom is just totally amazing. Where I notice a lot of people get caught, and let me fill me in on your opinion here, where I feel a lot of entrepreneurs get caught though, is they start off wanting to work to make money in order to have that freedom of time. But then there's this funny thing. Maybe it's greed, maybe it's ambition, maybe it's a million other things. But then it's the pursuit of capital, the pursuit of cash, kind of gets them. And then all of a sudden, now they don't have any more time, right? They're so concentrated on trying to bring in more money, bring in more deals, knock on more doors, make more phone calls, shake more hands, that all of a sudden they're like, oh man, they're so stressed out and everything else. I mean, do you notice with some of the people that you coach and some of the companies that you've been at, have you heard stories like that where entrepreneurs kind of get caught in the grind?
Yeah, I talk to a lot of business owners and they say, they married to their business right now. Even me, for example, with Roof Hustlers, I still spend a lot of time with my kids, but the way our business model is set up at the moment is when we go train, we travel for like 3 days out the week. So we do like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then we come home Sunday morning, or we'll do a Wednesday through Saturday and we come home Saturday morning. So that's like 3 days that I'm not with my kids that originally I would be with them. So I done kind of fell into that category as well, but it's a little bit different because the only difference is when I come back home, I don't work. You know what I mean? So those 3-4 days that I'm home, I'm all with my kids. Like I came back home last Saturday and I've been with them from Sunday all the way up until yesterday, and then they go with their mom for like 3 days and then they come back with me. But yeah, I see a lot of guys that get caught up in that, that routine of, chasing more money. And one thing I promote to guys when I go train and coach other companies is, no, man, we grind to buy back our time. That's why we do what we do. Like I'm always okay with telling the roofing company no. Like, no, I don't want to train that week. Like I blocked off a couple of weeks because it was my daughter's birthday and things like that. So I don't just move whenever they want to book me. But I understand that concept, man, because I guess the goal is to stack up a bunch of cheese as much as you can. And then you cut back and then you raise the price and then you don't got to travel as much. So maybe you're only doing 6 trainings a year, but now you're charging $20,000. So you know what I mean? So that's the ultimate goal.
Oh, so that's the goal. That's your goal right now. Is that kind of where you want to be at?
Yeah, to continue to increase the knowledge, increase the impact, increase the value. We want to turn it into licensing. We want to create the online platform. We want to coach other coaches how to do what we do. And then that way, when they want me to come out, we can just charge them a really hefty price.
Right. And when you say hefty, I mean, again, what exactly is hefty, especially if you can just go ahead and increase a company's revenue. Right. If you can increase, just the company culture, making them feel better, get them more motivated. Like at the end of the day, like, is it really hefty? In our industry, everything is so quote unquote pricey. But when you really break it down, right, a couple of sales, like that covers most people's nut, Yeah.
$10,000, $15,000, $20,000. That's not a lot of money, man. When, like, for example, I trained a company in Oklahoma, First Priority Roofing, awesome company. But the thing about it, they used to go out and outdoors. They would get processes started, but they wouldn't call in claims. So they would get a homeowner sign paperwork and just say, hey, when you get time, call the claim in and call me back. And I'm like, no, we don't do that. Like we call in the claim the day of.
Right.
So when I went out there, we did 13 deals in 3 days. They typically do like 8 to 12 in a week. Mm-hmm. We did 13 in 3 days. And then within that whole week span from when I got there to, a couple of days after I left, they did 34 deals in 7 days. So to charge somebody $20,000 for 7 deals, for 35 deals in 7 days, and let's just say every deal a minimum $10,000, that's $350,000 that you just added to your book of business for a $20,000 investment. Like
it's a no-brainer.
That's a no-brainer.
Right. Yeah. So, have you noticed that there, and again, I mean, your business model might be a little bit different because you have a lot of people reaching out to you and be like, yo, hey, we like need this help. But do you notice even that some of the people that contact you are a little bit apprehensive when it comes down to actually making change? In other words, they know that they need something. They'll still reach out to you. But then when you're giving them the goods and you're like, hey, look, this is the roadmap. This is what you're supposed to do. Do you still get a little bit of pushback on making those changes?
Some people, I done had some companies reach out and I tell them the price and I never hear from them again. You know what I mean? But typically once I give them the format, the foundation and the process and what we're going to do, most people love it. And I would say 90% of the business that reach out to me pull the trigger. So this year we done coached 19 companies. Out of that 19, I probably done talked to 5 additional companies that didn't do nothing. But they even like, hey, we want to put you on the schedule for next year. Hey, we need to save up a little bit more money. Hey, we want it. But 90% of my clients that reach out to me pull the trigger because they really want change. They can see it. Like it's a guy called the Roof Strategist, Adam Benson, awesome dude. But he teaches a lot of good strategies. One thing I teach versus other coaches, I teach mindset, I teach boldness, I teach being fearless. So I know a lot of people that like use other people's information, but they're like, our guys just don't got the mindset. We need the mindset. So they pay me to come out and give them that mindset. So when they actually can acknowledge their pain points and they know why they calling me, it's always easier for them to pull that trigger versus some people just like, well, how much it costs you? Like I know another company, the average is maybe 2 claims a week, but they don't like knocking doors, but they asking me how much it costs to come in. I'm like, y'all really don't want my help because I done told you how to do it and you won't even go do it on your own. What's the point of you paying me to come out for me to show you? And then you probably won't even, stick with what I taught you.
Right.
So there's some companies that just on the fence, but most people that hit me up, they ready to go, because they watch enough videos, they see enough of my content. They like, we need that guy here in person.
Right. They already see the results from, all these other companies too. And you can just tell, especially for those of you that haven't, that are listening and watching this, that are not following Roof Hustlers on Instagram, make sure that you follow my boy. Tons of great content. And more importantly, you see, like, while you're knocking doors with people, the people they're smiling, they're closing deals. So the proof's in the pudding, right? Like the results are there. It's not like you're faking it. And there's a lot of, scary online gurus now. Right. Anybody with a mic and a camera all of a sudden, is just offering advice. And look, prime example, just the other day, you're going to get a kick out of this. Look, I'm the type of person that if I say I'm going to do something, especially if it's public, right? Like if I put myself out there and I'm said that I'm going to do something, like I got to do it. Like I just have to do it. Right. Yep. So I invited someone onto the podcast, right? I watched some of his content, seemed like cool content, everything else. And he's talking about sales. He's not in the roofing industry. He's in the construction industry, but not particularly roofing. He's a consultant. So reach out to him. I'm like, hey man, what's going on? See some of your content, good stuff, blah, 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 blah. This is who I am. Come on the show. He's like, all right, cool. Yeah, let's do it. Boom. The day of the interview, he hits me up on the DMs. He's like, yeah, man, you know what? I'm sick. I'm like, he goes, hey, I can come on the show if you want, but it's not going to be like my best performance. So, it's up to you. So me just being, a courteous dude, I'm like, you know what, bro, no big deal. You're sick. It's no big deal. Life is long. Go get good, and then we'll come back and we'll do this later. Like, thanks for reaching out, whatever. Now, mind you, before a couple of things going on. Number one, he was doing like phase 3 of 75 hard, which means that if he was like sick, homeboy still went out and did 2 workouts a day, right? All right, cool. So let's just pretend that he did. Let's just pretend that he did that, right? All right, cool. So that's like number one. But number 2, the video on his Instagram before he canceled my appointment, which is no big deal. I get it, right? Was sometimes you just got to show up and not be a little bitch, regardless of how you feel.
No, he didn't.
Bro, I swear to God. So anyways, now here's the thing. This guy's a consultant. And I'm not going to mention his name because it doesn't matter. And I really hope that he hears this because he's going to know who it is. The guy is a consultant and he's teaching other people how to sell and how to follow up. So I get this message and 2 days later, because again, just like a regular dude, just like you and I were chatting back and forth, blah, blah, blah. I said, hey man, hey, how's it going? Are you feeling any better? Like what's going on? Didn't mention anything about the show, like whatever. I was just checking in on him. He's like, yeah, man, whatever, still sick, whatever. I'm like, cool, man, we'll get better. Let's go ahead and let me know when we can go ahead and get you on the podcast. All right, cool. Give it like another week. Hit him back up. Like, yo, bro, what's going on? How you feeling? Hit him back up a few more times, like follow up. And all of a sudden he hits me back with this message and he's like, dude, he goes, you know what? Like, I don't want to be on the show. Like, you're all about you. Like you're this and that. Like, you're impatient. And I'm like, whoa. Now, what pissed me off wasn't that he canceled. Like I could give 3 shits about that. What pissed me off was the online persona that he's putting out there and how he's, how do you get upset? For example, if I get a good sales pitch, like the whole time I'm being sold, I'm like, fuck, this is good. This is really good. And I'll tell the salesperson, I'm like, bro, you're box closing me. Like, that's good. You're tying, and I'll call out like all of his little, sales techniques. I'm like, you're tying me down. Good job. Yeah. You're doing everything textbook. I appreciate it because it's an art form for me. And I appreciate when I see a good artist, I'm like, the guy's doing what he's supposed to do. when you're teaching someone how to do something, and then someone is giving you on the back end is giving you those same closes. For example, if you feel offended by a follow-up, you can't tell the people to follow up. You can't you can't tell your students to follow up if you're offended by a follow-up, by a courteous follow-up, right? So what got me upset is about that. So this is a long-winded way of saying that a lot of the people that you follow online just really aren't real. Like reality versus expectations are two totally different things. So the beauty about what you do is you're like on the field, like all over the place.
We love to display it. And the companies that I go train, the biggest compliment I can ever get is when they say, man, you the same dude online as you is in person. Or, you know what I mean? Like, we meet you in person and you don't change, you don't front, you're not faking it. Like, you still the same way. And even when I train in the office, I say the same way I talk to y'all is the same way I talk to homeowners. Like, I don't get out there and we switch it up because we're in front of other human beings. I've learned, one thing I've learned to do, Rico, man, versus most people haven't figured out yet, is to be my authentic self all the time. Like, I don't care whether people like it or not. You know what I mean? Like, I've told my companies, no, I'm not going to go knock more doors because I'd rather spend time with my kids. Like, it's just certain things that I've learned to just be me and love me. And if you don't like me, I'm cool, because my voice always going to attract my tribe. And we've been building a beautiful community, a community full of awesome people. And, we able to touch minority roofing companies. And a lot of these other guys, they don't get that privilege because a lot of people hit me up and they're like, man, I can relate to you. I feel like you come where I come from. And that's just due to me always being myself and not trying to be like some prestigious black dude, but just let them know, hey, man, I come from the hood. We polish this thing up. We got professional. We got serious. We got committed. We got dedicated. And the results we got due to, showing up even when we didn't want to and just being consistent and letting that consistency compound. And I still give away the game for free, man. There's other guys that try to do what I do with coaching, and I give them game for free, man. Like, tell them what they should be doing, what they should be focused on, X, Y, and Z. Because a lot of these guys are so focused on price and money. How much, man, I can't believe you charge people 10K. I'm going to start charging people 10K. I was like, between me and you charging 10K, I gave away free stuff for 3 years.
Right.
You ain't give away nothing. And you just, you know what I mean?
Right.
So a lot of these guys so attached to the money, and I'm attached to the service and the impact.
And normally the money comes, right?
Yeah, money follows, but don't leave.
If you can produce the content, and if you come from a place of again being authentic, right, and you're providing as much value as possible, the money's going to come, man. Like, people are just going to connect. Like, even with this podcast, right? Like, I've gotten people in our industry, in our area, that have reached out, like, yo, like, thank you for putting out that content. Like, that was amazing. This is in theory competition. I mean, and I'm using air quotes here because it's really not competition. Like, there's more than enough business to go around for everybody, right? So even for us, I mean, like, you lead with the content. You lead with, and again, some people take this for granted, but even for people watching and listening, you have no idea how much value you can bring to somebody else just by putting your thoughts out there, your experience out there, because there's always a tribe of people behind you that want to get to where you are.
100%. And, different voices attract different ears, different tones, and all of these things. So a lot of people don't think their story is that significant or that impactful, but just like you and myself, I had no permission. Nobody gave me permission to start Roof Hustlers. I just said, I'm going to do it. And a lot of my friends and family looked at me crazy because this is like, well, you going to do a YouTube channel on roofing? And I'm like, just trust me, I promise you. And now we 4 years later into this thing. And, I go back to my hometown because I moved away. But I go back to my hometown, and the people that I grew up with, they see me. And, I don't even mention it to them. And they're just like, and I see you doing your roofing thing. I see you everywhere. I see you traveling. You know what I mean? I remember when you first started this, and I see where it's at. And that's why I tell people, man, you gotta get started. You don't gotta have it all planned out. Because I'm a firm believer, Rico, is somebody out there that's better than me, probably a little bit more talented, got a little bit more wisdom pertaining to the roofing and the restoration industry. The only difference is they got it all mapped out, and they ain't took one step yet. Versus me, I'm like, I don't know, let's just go. And we just jumped out there and just took off with it. We perfected it as we went. And, now we got a well-oiled machine, and we still perfecting this thing, man. I tell these guys, once I get it a little bit more polished up, they going to be in trouble.
Right. Just taking imperfect action, right? Just getting it started. Sometimes it's just a matter of taking the time, the energy, and just, being able to muster up enough will to take those first initial steps and then change it up as you go along. Like, again, the market is going to tell you whether or not, what you're doing is valuable. Like the market is real quick to tell you if it's good or if it's not. And if you got to change the logo, change the logo. You change the name, you change the name. You change your content style, that's fine. But at least, at least you're moving forward. One of my favorite things to do is with big influencers. Every time I check out their stuff, I'm like, man, they just seem like they're so far away from where I'm at. All I do is I go to their YouTube channel, and this is just to make me feel better about myself. And I sort their videos by oldest, and you get to see the journey, the progression and the journey that they went on. You get to see the bad, shaky videos with the bad light and them stumbling over their words. And I'm like, man, you know what? They're human, just like me, just like you, just like anybody else. And that's the only difference is that they had the consistency and they stuck with it. And I think that's extremely valuable in all aspects of life.
My first YouTube channel, man, because like I said, I come from the hood, man. I'm influenced by, hip hop culture and just, African-American culture in general. My first YouTube video, I used the Young Jeezy verse, man. Like, I had a hood cameraman. We shot it in one of my really good friends' warehouse. Like, and then once my original cameraman, he got locked up and went to jail, I stopped working with him. And I was like, you know what, I can do this myself. So I went and bought a tripod and set up black curtains in my spare bedroom, started recording in the spare bedroom, and you can see some of the wrinkles in the curtains and everything. And then I met my camera guys now. I met them actually working out together. And now they got the chest mic on me. They got the graphics on the screens and everything, but it's all a progression. And that was within 4 years, but we just kept going. Like we kept going. We never stopped. We never let the fact that somebody else's video looked better than mine stopped me from putting out new information. And even on Instagram, like my first Instagram video was like, oh, what's up? It's your boy Dashaun. Then it went to like, what's up? What y'all out there doing? Then it went to like hustlers. So like that all was a progression, just playing with this thing and having fun with it and not caring what anybody else thinks. And I think people's biggest issue when they want to get started, they want to create their own brand, they want to start trying to impact and influence people, is they care too much about what the market think versus just put it out there and the market gonna tell you what they think. But stop trying to predict what you think they gonna think. You don't know. And so I always encourage people, just put it out there. Just put it out there. Let it do what it do, because there's so much power in the unseen and people want to see it first. Well, I need to see it first. I don't even watch my YouTube videos once I put them out, man. I don't even check on nothing. I might go look at the views like a month later, but I don't do none of that stuff, man. I don't care. I just put it out there.
Right. Yeah. So, and here's kind of circling back to the whole entrepreneurial thing. Reason why most people get into business is because they want freedom. They want to buy back their time. They want freedom. However, when it comes down to their business, they are not pursuing freedom and expression, freedom in just being themselves. And when you can break free from the shackles, without trying to sound too poetic or anything, but if you can break free from the shackles of what other people think of you and how other people are going to react to you, it opens up a whole other dimension of what's possible, because now you're walking around and you're like, hey, look, this is who I am on camera. This is who I am when I'm knocking on the door. This is how I'm talking to actual prospects. Like what you see is what you get. And when you never have to put on a show, you can just be natural. It just changes everything, because look, now if somebody sees you on video, they're like, hey man, you know what? Let me call Dashaun. Let me have him come up to the office so you can train my guys. And then you show up and you're a different cat. Like all of a sudden things change, right? Oh yeah. And it's stressful. Like, you know, what happens if you're at the mall, you're buying, so I know you're into shoes, you're into Converse, right? Into Chucks. If you're out there buying some Chucks, right? And I run into you at the mall and all of a sudden you're acting different. It's like, oh, now you gotta like mentally reset. It's just a crazy way to live, man. And too many people online live that way now. And it's so much easier just to be out there, be yourself, you know, whoever it is. If you're a quirky guy, be a quirky guy. Like, you know, it is what it is. And you're going to find naturally people just gravitate to you. I always use the nightclub example because I was a cool cat. at the nightclub. Like I was the guy holding up the wall, right? So I had my Henny, my Henny in my cup and just holding up the wall. And I don't know, for those of you that go clubbing and whatnot, but there's always like this like weird hour at the club where ain't nobody dancing yet, like nobody. Yeah. But then there's also this one guy. There's always one guy and he doesn't give a shit. Like he doesn't care. And people are looking at him and laughing at him and whatever. But something funny happens, right? Something funny always happens with that guy. All of a sudden, like you'll see like chicks, like all of a sudden, whether they're trying to be comical or funny or whatever, they'll just go up and they'll just start dancing with them. And, everybody else is kind of like, mocking the guy, but the guy's having a blast. And ironically, he's the guy that kind of gets everything going, right? The whole party started, yeah. He gets the whole party started, right? So, when you look at that, and I would look at that, I was like, man, that's awesome. Like, because that guy doesn't give a shit. Like he's just being free. He's just doing his thing. And I think if you can apply those principles, I'm a big believer in like universal principles. If you can look at one thing, and be like, yo, how does this work here? Does it work everywhere else? And those is one of those life situations that just would work anywhere, right? Like for me, the reason why I feel I was so successful in my business when nobody knew who I was, when I didn't have any connections in the industry, and we were able to sell as much as we did our very first year, is because when I knocked on a door and I got called out to an appointment, like what you saw was what you got. Like I didn't care about what the person was thinking of me. I was just telling me, hey, this is what you got. This is what you need. This is what I'm going to produce. This is the price. Yes or no. Boom, let's go. And people reacted to that because you never had that salesman front that you were putting on, right? Where you were being robotic and you're like, yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Yes, hello. And you all of a sudden change the way that you would normally have a conversation with people. I think that there's a lot of success that's locked in by not letting go.
Yep. Stay in power. Just being holding on, not letting go, showing up. Because there's been plenty of times I wanted to quit. For example, Hurricane Irma hit. I was making about $2,500, $3,000 a week. Hurricane Irma hit. Because I only used to get paid $200 per claim. I didn't get back any money. So I was killing the game. Hurricane Irma hit, and I went from $2,500 to $3,000 a week to $400 to $600 a week. And it was so easy to go get a 9-to-5 and go get guaranteed money and just, get comfortable again. But I stayed. I didn't run. I fought through that, uncomfortableness, and I learned how to close retail deals, and I learned how to actually get paperwork from homeowners, build higher levels of trust. And a new storm came through and we got right back to business. But that's how I learned how to close retail deals, from like standing in that threshold of that uncomfortableness. Because insurance restoration, they don't really teach you how to close retail, man. They're like, hey, insurance company paid $4,000, boom, you done. So I had to learn how to sell retail due to that, uncomfortable situation. But it was just staying here and not running, and not running to that safety net. And that's what most people do. They get a little bit of turmoil. Like you said, you believe in universal principles, and a principle that I live and die by, that I learned from one of my mentors, is disruption always follows intention. So as soon as you set an intention in your life, there will be disruption that follows it. There will be some type of chaos. Somebody in your life gonna die. You're gonna get a flat tire. Your car gonna get repoed. You're gonna lose some money. Like some type of situation gonna happen in your life. And it's only because God's seeing how bad do you really want what you said you want. Like, okay, you told me you want to be a millionaire. Do you want to be a millionaire enough to where you got to go broke to come back?
No matter what.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So disruption always follows intention, and people got to be aware of that, and they got to be okay with, you never get it when you want to, you get it when you're supposed to.
Right. So let's talk about sales real quick. When you're out there and you're training people, are you focused more on what they say, how they say it, or are you focused more on the mindset?
So we got, it's sectional, like it's broke down in sections, right? So when I go train a company, when I come in on Thursday, Wednesday, I run the company meeting. So I got 14 key points, what I call the epitome of a hustler. And I just shift their whole mindset and give them a whole new belief system. Because I'm a firm believer that perspective drives performance. And a lot of these guys believe themselves just a door-to-door salesman. I'm just a door-to-door salesman. And I'm like, no. You're a life changer. Like you just as valuable as the police officers, the mayors, the doctors in your community. You just as valuable of them because you improve the property value. You improve the aesthetics of the community by going door to door and helping people get new roofs. And if you didn't do that, the community wouldn't be as awesome as it is. So I got to change their mindset, how they view themselves, because a lot of guys undervalue themselves for what they do. So we changed the whole mindset. Then once we change the mindset, then we teach them how to sell. But a lot of people, they do the opposite. They go in there and try to teach somebody how to sell and they still think the same. And if they still think the same, they're going to get the same results. They're going to, have the same actions. So we shift that whole perspective. Then we teach them how to sell. So when we do teach them how to sell, one thing we big on tonality. We big on words. I'm big on words, man. A lot of people don't focus on words. I focus on words because words mean what they mean. So when we knock doors, we're like, hey, how you doing? I'll be brief. Like we teach people to say, I'll be brief. We don't teach people to say, oh, I don't mean to bother you today. Oh, how you doing? We just in the neighborhood letting people know what's up. Hey, I only need 2 minutes of your time. Like, no, we don't do none of that. Hey, how you doing? I'll be brief. Because when you say I'll be brief, you anchoring people to like, okay, this is going to be short, but really it can take 45 minutes. But just because you said brief, I'll be brief, they'll give you the time. Like we teach people to use the word lately versus recently. Hey, have you had somebody out here to check out the roof lately? Versus saying, hey, have you had anybody out here to check out the roof recently? Or have you had somebody out here to check out the roof? When they say, have you had somebody out here to check out the roof? Homeowners usually say, yeah. And they be like, oh, okay. How long ago? 3 years ago.
Right.
Because it's no specifics in the request. So we say lately, that condenses it to a 3 to 6 month time frame. And homeowners, the reply is usually, I ain't had nobody out here lately. And you got them right where you want them at. You know what I mean? Like, so we use the word doing versus saying, are you interested? Do you want? Would you like? No, we don't care if they would like or they interested or want a free inspection. We let them know we out here doing some free roof inspections. We just stopping by to see if you have somebody out here to check out your roof lately. And the word doing is so powerful because it makes you feel like we already out there actively doing inspections. So they're more open to receiving that because they're like, oh, you already out here doing them. Go ahead. You can get up on my roof. You already out here doing them. But when you ask somebody, hey, are you interested? Now they got to take a step back.
Now you're using a yes or no, and you're giving them an exit. And this is like where and again, to kind of, really solidify your point, like words mean things. Like, and this is something that I've said forever, like words mean things. And the detail in how you phrase it not only changes the outcome of how this other person, your prospect, thinks, but it does this other magical thing too, because if you start understanding the value of each one of the words that you're using in your script and your pitch and whatever it is, it changes the way that you perceive what it is that you're actually doing as well.
Yep, 100%. And, we just like, I teach guys to get rid of the word claim. Like, I don't never use the word claim. We're going to sit down and help you file a claim because words trigger, thoughts and emotions in us. Like, anytime I go train, I say, I know y'all got kids. Let me ask you a question. What do you think of when I say the word contraction? And I done heard men say pain. And I say, the funny thing about it, you never even had any, but that's what a contraction does. It triggers pain in the brain, right? So I'm like, what do you think a homeowner thinking when you say the word claim? They thinking we don't do that. We get dropped. Our rates go up. You know what I mean? We stay away from people that want to file claims. So what we do, I teach people to word it like this. We can let you know the steps you could take to get a brand new roof. And the cool thing about it, we get the insurance company to pay for it. Sounds awesome, right? And then we hit them with that tie down question. And every time we say sounds awesome, right? They say yes 9 times out of 10. And it's so psychologically powerful because when they say yes, Rico, and I say, all right, first thing I need to do is get up on the roof. And they say, no, I don't think I want an inspection. I double back and I say, well, Mr. Rico, a second ago, you just told me this opportunity sounds awesome. Now what's stopping you from taking advantage of such a great opportunity? Now the homeowner is no longer battling with me. He got to have a discussion with himself of why I just said yes and I just said no. And when people get in that type of psychological battle with themselves, man, it is fun to watch. And it's crazy how they'll just backtrack what they just said and be like, okay, well, you can go ahead and get up there.
Yeah. In the phone game, we used to call that a loop, right? Yeah. So basically you have your sizzle up until your tie down, which essentially is your close. And that's the anchor. the anchor point for the conversation, right? It's like, fair enough. Does it sound good? Right? Yes. You get them to agree. Yes. Yeah. Usually I would always, throughout any kind of presentation, minimum 3 to 4 times throughout the conversation, I'm getting them to say yes. And, kind of doing that whole thing. And then you use that point and be like, well, wait, hold on. You just said, and then you loop back around. And then this is where you start tightening the noose. I didn't even know this at the time. But Jordan Belfort actually has this straight line system. That's what he calls it. I didn't realize till probably 8 years of me doing the straight line system that I was doing the straight line system, because apparently it all kind of trickled down from there. But he's got it a real good map and a visual representation of what he calls the straight line, the loops and everything else. And it's just amazing how that works. And this is a proven system, obviously on the phone, obviously door to door. So it works regardless of the industry that you're in. When you're going through word tracks, right, or scripts with people, where do you find most people are uncomfortable with as far as sales reps? Is it asking for a commitment, asking for a signature, asking to physically get on the roof? What do you notice is the most amount of tension?
That's a great question, right? Because the hardest part that all sales guys struggle with when we're going through scripts is being conversationally disciplined. Most of them not conversationally disciplined. They can ask for the sale. They can ask to get on the roof, but they're so sporadic with the way they do things. They get a little bit excited and they want to jump to this part of the script, or they get this happened and they want to do this. And I teach them, man, just stay conversationally disciplined. Only talk about the things that you want to talk about. Just because your homeowner brought something up does not mean you got to entertain it. And that's guys' biggest issue. The homeowner say, well, I think this. And they go down that whole rabbit hole. So in my script, right, I got this part where I say, have you had somebody out here to check out a roof lately? And no matter what their response is, we don't even acknowledge it. So let's say if they say, oh yeah, man, we already had somebody out here, we good. I teach people to say, awesome, man, you don't name your homeowner's insurance. So if somebody say, oh, you know what, I don't need no inspections, man, I roof good. Awesome, man, you know the name of your homeowner's insurance? And most guys, it's so uncomfortable to not respond to what that homeowner said. They want to address it. Oh, well, who looked at it? What they found? What they told you? And I'm like, nope, don't go down that rabbit hole. Let them say what they want to say. And you just say, awesome, man, you know the name of your homeowner's insurance? And I showed the guy that in person, because in the office, I told him, and he was like, all right, I'm going to trust you, man, but I don't know how to do it. You know what I mean? Right. So we got on the doors. He watched the dude tell me, man, we good. We don't need nothing. And I was like, awesome, man, you know the name of your homeowner's insurance? And the homeowner was like, man, I think we got State Farm, man. I think we got State Farm, man. That's who we got.
But for those of you listening and those of you watching, what I really want you to take away from is not even what Dashaun is saying. Forget about what he's saying, although that has a lot of value. Listen to the tonality in the way that he said it each and every single time that he said it. It was identical, and it has a certain dance to what he's saying, where he's not caught off by surprise, and it's just very nonchalant, right? The tonality is what's key, and a lot of people they look at words on a script, and they're just like, they say it different. They're saying the same words, but they say it different. So again, when you're saying it, how is it that you say it?
Awesome, man. You don't name your homeowner's insurance?
Regardless of what the person says, no matter what they say. Now, this is where I've noticed. I used to train big rooms of 75 killers on the phone. That's where I shined at. And people would get this confused, right? You have to, in order to be a good salesperson, I think you have to genuinely care about the customer. You have to care about the customer and about what they want, about what they need. And yes, you have to listen to the customer. You have to pay attention. However, that being said, that doesn't mean that everything that the customer says is important. Your job is to provide the best product and or service that you have to the client, who may not even realize that the best thing for them is to buy your product or service. And sometimes what your main job is to get them out of the way. And in order to do that, they're going to go ahead and give you all of these rebuttals, all of this stuff, right? This verbal diarrhea that's just coming out of their mouth. You have to, as a good salesperson, have a structured presentation that you've done over and over and over again, that you've perfected the tonality with, and then say, you know what? I'm not at a part in my presentation yet where I need to acknowledge everything that the person says. And I just need to go ahead and pursue my, again, kind of going back to Jordan Belfort, what he calls a straight line, which is a good visual representation, right? Because he basically talks about the straight line, and then you've got a couple of levels above it and a couple of levels below it, right?
Come back to the line.
And you always go back to the line. You go back to ground zero, because the client will inevitably, and sometimes, look, even as a seasoned vet, when you get a certain presentation, you know, sometimes somebody throws you a curveball and you're like, whoa, wait, what? And you kind of want to address it, right? Either you want to address it because they threw you off, or it was a really good tactical question, whatever the case may be. But just going back to having these scripts, these rebuttals all planned out, and regardless of what the person says, you have a response for the next stage. That bridge to get you to the next part of the presentation is always key.
100%. And when I go train companies, we spend probably 40 minutes, 35 to 40 minutes, me just breaking down my script. Because my script is very conversational versus presentational. Conversation creates buy-in, presentation creates blockage. So I teach guys, we want to create conversations with people. Like your biggest asset when you pitching or selling somebody is enrollment. And most people don't understand that. And they say, what's enrollment? I say, you want to give out subtle requests and actions. You get your homeowner to move subtly, nothing big, just something similar, like, hey, how you doing today? Boom, they responded to that one. Hey, have you heard about what's been going on in the area? No, I haven't. Boom. So you creating little enrollments to you getting your homeowner involved within this conversation, whether they want to or not. They don't even know that they don't want to be. They know they don't want to talk to you. But when you give them such subtle requests, creating that enrollment, they get involved in this conversation, and now they bought in. And now once they bought into the conversation, you've been getting them to take little subtle action. So when you get to your final request, which is, all right, let me go grab my ladder, that way I can get up on the roof. They've been saying yes to you this whole time, or they've been answering all your questions. So now now it's just one more action for them to just say, okay, yeah, go ahead and get up there. So I teach guys enrollment. I teach guys all these things. So I spend 35 to 40 minutes breaking down my script, because like you said, Rico, I can give them this piece of paper and have them go read it and they'll get no results. But when I sit down and break down the psychology behind it, I just watch the light bulbs go up in their head, and they're like, wow, man, oh man, okay, I've been saying this, I've been saying that. Like I teach guys to get rid of the word basically. It's little things that I teach them, because the word basically to me is it's a doubt word in my mind. Because that's like me coming to your house and saying, basically, we help people get new roofs and get an insurance company to pay for it. And I'll be like, what you mean basically? Like you either do it or you don't.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so the example I love to use with the guys when I'm training, because it makes so much sense to them, I say, imagine you ask a girl on a date and she say basically. Like you'll be confused. You'll be like, what? Like, yes or no? Do you want to go on a date? So I'm like, you got to do the same thing to your homeowners. Don't use doubt words like that. So we really repolish people's vocabulary to a certain extent, to where cats, like, they'll text me and be like, I went the whole day today without saying basically. And I'm like, good job, man. You know what I mean? Or little things like that. So we dive really deep psychological. I'm a big reader. I'm a big studier. And, you know, one thing that separates me from most coaches in my industry, I don't focus on roofs. And a lot of these guys focus so much on roofs. And I focus on dealing with people. I focus on mentality. I focus on words, vocabulary, and all of those things. I focus on people, because I figure we're not in the roofing business. We're in the people business. We just put on roofs. So as you learn and know how to deal with people at a very high level, it don't matter what you're selling.
Right. And every successful entrepreneur that I have a conversation with, regardless of the industry that they're in, they can be a coach, they can be a consultant, they can be a roofer, they can be a water mitigation company. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what business. They're always say the same thing. It's not my product. It's my people. I'm in the people business, right? McDonald's, they're in the people business, right? Like, so it's like everybody's in the people business. Like, how do you speak to, whoever your prospects are? You could always change the product later on, right? Yep. And all of these word scripts, right? The scripts, the word tracks, the rebuttals, you can remove roof and put in anything else, and it'll work exactly the same. And it's just because, again, learning how to speak with a certain degree of confidence and having a pre-thought out presentation, right? A pitch, if you will. especially for your product or service? Because again, look, just and answer this. Like, typically, how many rebuttals do you get? Like, how many objections do you get on any one door that you ever knock?
We probably gonna get a minimum 3, on a high end about 7.
But total, if you had to like write them all out right now, I'm sure you could probably say, hey, look, I have, this is going to be like 5, 10, 50. Every industry is going to have X amount of objections. Well, you've already knocked on 100 doors. You already know what potentially everybody's going to say. Why haven't you taken the time to sit down and write down those responses, those questions, right? Those objections, and say, how should I address this? Right.
That's exactly how I created my objection manual, just from hearing these things and writing them down and tweaking it and approaching it a little bit different and getting success with it. Like, I'm big on scripts. I think scripts are super essential. And a lot of people try to be like, no, I just like to get on the door and just do my thing. And I'm like, imagine watching a Will Smith movie and he just do his thing. Like, it won't be good.
Right.
Will Smith, a great actor, but he get a script and he memorizes the script. He internalizes the script.
And he still does his thing within the boundaries of the script.
Within the boundaries of the script. And that's why I try to teach guys. I'm like, you got to understand, it's equivalent to when you first start playing basketball, right? When you first start playing basketball, you look at the ball. Boom. Once you get good, you're no longer looking at the ball. Now you're looking at the defense. Okay. Then once you get great, you're not looking at the defense no more. You watching the plays happen before they happen. And I tell guys, you got to get to that space of where you see the plays happen before they happen. You see the objections coming before they coming. You watching the way your homeowner move, the eyebrows, the nose, all the little things that they telling you, the nonverbal cues, because guys focus too much on verbal communication to try to sell deals. And I teach them, like, no, the reason why you can't see what I see, because you still here. You still in your head trying to think about what you want to say. I know what I'm going to say at every door. Now I'm just reading my homeowner so I can adapt to the way that they moving or the way they're adjusting. And I just adapt my script slightly. But that's why I teach guys, you got to internalize that script. I should be able to say, pitch me. And you should just throw that thing out there without thinking twice. Because I hate it when guys say, no, I'm better in the field, man. It's just I struggle in the office, man, because, just y'all, I get nervous around y'all. I'm like, no, you get nervous around homeowners too, and you just make up stuff out there. It's just you can't make up stuff in the office because we know what you're supposed to say.
Let's talk about role play for a second. In your opinion, how important, on a scale from one meaning it's not important at all, 10, it's something that you should be doing every single day, if not once, multiple times a day. That's how important it is. How important is role play on a scale from 1 to 10?
I got to be that guy. I'm going to say role playing, it's an 11.
Amen.
We got our 11 door-to-door roof commandments. So I'm going to say it's 11. Why? Because it's equipped. I love sports, so I love using sports analogies. I tell guys, I'm like, man, you play high school sports, right? They're like, yeah. I'm like, how many games you had a week? They're like, 1. I'm like, how many days you practice? 5. I'm like, exactly. How many days you spending time in the office, honing in on your skill, getting great at this? Oh, 1 time a week. And I'm like, so you like Booby Miles. You don't practice. You just show up to the game until you get hit with some really good struggles. And then now you done fail. And it's okay when you got God-given talent in the beginning, but after a while you got to hone in. And I hated role playing in the beginning, man. I'm like, no, I don't want to role play. But now I understand the importance of it. And I tell guys, it's just like I said, in high school, coach made you run the 32 dive at least 7 times, 8 times, even though the running back got it right, quarterback got it right, fullback got it right, right tackle missed his block though. So we're going to run the play again. Oh, this time left tackle started too early. Run the play again. And that's how I teach guys, like, you got to do your role playing that much to where it gets second nature. So I'm a firm believer in role playing. I even got objection flashcards that when I go train the companies, I give them flashcards, and we call it handle that objection, get that inspection. So anytime you got a team full of people, you have everybody pick out a flashcard, and on the back of every flashcard is a rebuttal that we typically run into in the field, and we make guys pitch them, and they got to deal with that rebuttal in the office. And we do what you like that they did do, what you like that they didn't do, and then we give them some coaching pointers, but we let everybody be involved because we like guys to know that the office is your safe place. The office is your place to grow. Like, we don't talk bad about each other in the office. We build each other up. So now we killed that fear of, like, doing public speaking in front of your peers because you think they're gonna make fun of you. We make it a place of like love and growth and, you know, empowerment.
Right. And a lot of people actually rise to the occasion, right? Like the guys that are a bit more, and gals that are a bit more, you know, introverted or shy or whatever the case may be. They're that way when they're knocking on a door. They're that way when they pick up the phone, right? But now by having that role play in the office, I've always been a huge believer in role play. You have to do it. You have to do it. Like, I mean, for me, I would take stuff to the extreme. Like the first thing in the morning, the very first thing that I would do is before I would go into the office, as I was showering, I would go through and I would pitch myself out loud. I would go through my entire pitch, and I knew my pitch front to back. I knew my basically the way that I always did my presentations. And to this day, I still kind of do it that way. I have what are called personal closes and company closes, right? So I've got my meat and potato script that gets me to the make or break point, which is my very first ask for the ticket, ask for the order, ask them to sign a contract. That at that point, one or two things is going to happen. Either a unicorn is going to show up and they're going to say, yes, Rico, I'm going to go with you. We love those. That's the one call close. We all love those, right? Yeah. At that point, you just got to get out of the way, hand them the pen, let them do their thing. Or that's when the sale actually begins, right? Because now they gave you, I don't know, a rebuttal or this or that. You got to learn your stuff, right? So, and I would go through that every single day in the shower as I was getting ready. Boom, I had my mindset was right, because as you're doing that, it's kind of hard to imagine someone saying no to you, especially first thing in the morning. You go ahead and you shoot off your pitch. You're not imagining a negative, you're imagining a positive, right? So now you get into the office and then you already got one up on some of the other guys because you already went through your presentation. You're already on your game. You already got the marbles out of your mouth. You're ready to rock and roll. All of a sudden now you start role playing and you're coming at it from a different angle, man. You're just amped up. By the time that you get on the field or you get on the phone or you're, going ahead and checking out an estimate, it's a totally different animal.
And I love role playing. Like my big brother, Lee Haight, I don't know if you know Lee, but also yeah. But he had me get on his podcast, and we did role playing live on his podcast, and I nailed that. And then he had his Blue Collar American Dream conference down in Miami, and he put me on a stage in front of 500 people, and we did role playing in front of 500 people, and I killed that. And people like, man, I can't believe you do that, man. Like, I can't get up in front of people and just do that. I'm like, bro, because it's internal. Like, I don't even know how to turn it off. You know what I mean?
Right.
But people say, pitch me, it just, boom, it's like a robot almost, you know what I mean? And it just come on. And like you said, you just said something, like most people rise to the occasion. I read in a book called Chop Wood, Carry Water, and I love it. And as you never rise to the occasion, you'll only drop to your level of training. And that's why you got to practice and go over scripts, because you're not going to get in the field and just magically come up with amazing ways to handle objections and rebuttals, and you just sharp as a tack, enthusiastic, and a force to be reckoned with, and you just blah. No, it don't happen like that. You're gonna drop to your level of training. You're gonna say, have a good day.
Right. Yep.
So that's why you got to role play.
And then you'll make up. And here's the funny thing is you'll make up any excuse after you walk away from that door. You're like, yeah, you know what? She wasn't ready to buy. No. You know what? I didn't want that sale. That was going to be a headache client. So you'll walk away and you'll justify why you didn't make that sale. One of the biggest things that I like to do when I'm, talking to other entrepreneurs, coaching them, consulting, kind of talking about their business, particularly in the areas of sales, is if you're going to sell yourself as to why you didn't get the deal, pre-sell yourself on why you're going to get more deals that day, that week, that month. It's the same amount of effort. It's actually less effort, right? And then once you get into that rhythm, like you said, it's almost robotic. And again, you can take and again, you've been doing roofs for a while, but you can go ahead and basically take any product, insert it, and you could still do the role play because the word tracks are very, very, very similar, right? The mindset is very, very, very similar. Are you going to have to tweak it here and there? Yeah, sure, maybe. But ultimately, that degree of preparation, you're ready to rock and roll regardless of the industry that you're in.
Yeah, no, you're 100% correct. And these skills never die. You know what I mean? Once you polish them and you hone in on them, you just take them to new arenas. And whether I'm, no matter the situation, I done sold a bartender on a free Red Bull, man. You know what I mean? Like, I'm always trying to sell. People always say that, oh, you're a negotiator. I say, no, I'm a salesman. And I take a lot of pride in being a salesman, and a lot of people, like, that's another thing that we changed with mindset. People like, man, I don't know, man. I tell people I'm not a salesman. I don't know. I say, no, I think being a salesman is the most noblest, prestigious, like, honorable job you can have in America. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, because people are at their happiest when they buy stuff. You know what I mean? I've never seen my daughter more happy than when I walk out the corner store with a kid drinking a piece of candy. Like, she's ecstatic, right? You know what I mean? And it's because I bought something, because she sold daddy on that she was thirsty and wanted a snack, and she sold me, and I bought it. And to watch that smile on her face is like priceless. But she wouldn't have that price on her face unless somebody sold me something.
Right.
If nobody didn't sell me that candy and sell me that drink, my daughter would still be crying and complaining. So I tell guys, I'm like, man, you add so much value to people's lives, and you always doing people a disservice if you don't sell them.
Right.
Like, if you don't sell them, you letting them down. So
it's our responsibility as business owners, as sales reps, as whatever it is, your job, like your responsibility, your duty is to sell. Because again, it would be a really sad world to live in if we didn't have people that were selling products and services and goods. Could you imagine if everybody was apprehensive? Could you imagine going to like Piggly Wiggly's or Publix or something like that, and the cashier was like, "You sure you want to buy this?" Like, instead, you know, like it'd be a scary world
of sales. My first taste of sales, I used to work in Publix, right? And I used to be a bagger, and I was a hell of a bagger. Like, I could put $300 worth of groceries in one cart. Like, I was a good ass bagger. And they was like, man, you so enthusiastic. You just got such good energy. In the meat department, they down in sales. We just want you to be just run the counter at the meat department. And I'm like, cool, I don't know nothing about meat. I don't know nothing about fish, but I sit at the counter. And I sat at the counter and I improved the meat department sales like tremendously. And all I did was sit there. Like you said, somebody would come in and just say, I want a half a pound of shrimp. And I'd be like, and you don't want that tenderloin that's on sale? Come on, man. How you gonna eat the shrimp without the steak, man? How much is $6.99, bro? It's usually $12. You can get it for $6. All right, man, let me get a topsoil on. And you know what I mean? I'm selling them on those things, but to see that and then they come back in a week later, man, that sirloin was good, man. Y'all got something. And it's like, he wouldn't experience that if I didn't sell him something. Right. People like to feel sleazy or like, man, sell as much. If you got something good to sell, you need to sell it to as many people as possible.
Right. So that they can have that experience. And I think a lot of people just get they've got this negativity set in their mind.
My personal opinion is Hollywood.
Right. Maybe. Yeah. You get right. The way that they've made the used car salesman out to be and all of that stuff. And look, there's been a lot of that stuff. Like, I get it. Right. There's good sales practices and questionable sales practices. I get that. But ultimately, if you come from a place of trying to do the right thing and you've got a good product, you've got a good service, having a good product and a good service, first of all, it's starting there. If you have a good product and a good service, you got one up on most companies anyways, right? Trying to be a good salesman with a shitty product and a shitty service, you know, it's now you're a little bit at a disadvantage because now your personality's really got to shine through, right? Like you got to lay it on thick, if you know what I mean. But, having just a positive attitude, right? Forget about all the sales tactics and the scripts and everything else, but just having a positive attitude, being enthusiastic about being where you are. Beautiful story from bag boy, being enthusiastic, right? Doing a job that most people would be like, oh, fuck, what am I going to get out of here? Right? From there to have an opportunity to go to another department, because now they're saying, hey man, if you're this enthusiastic here, that department is hurting. Just your personality alone is going to go ahead and better that department. So many people, if they just walked in with a certain degree of enthusiasm, would totally change not only their jobs, but for the entrepreneur out there, change their business.
Well, I think it's two things to go along with that. Another thing to go along with enthusiasm is pride. And don't get me wrong, pride can be looked at as a negative, or like you got too much pride. But I think you got to have pride in whatever you do. Like, you got to show up in whatever you do, and knowing that no matter what you're doing, whether you're a bag boy, whether you're a roofer, whether you're a roof salesman, whether you're a coach, no matter, when you show up, you got to be mindful that that's a representation of how people going to view you. So I was a bagger, but I mean, I was one of the coolest baggers there. Man, people used to love to come through my line, and I used to have on the Publix apron, and I used to fill it up with all of the pins that they used to give us. And people were like, "Oh, I love your pins." Then it got to the point where customers was bringing me pins and all of these things. And once I left, like people were like, "Oh man, this where you at in the meat department? Oh man, I'm gonna make sure I start stopping by here." So they used to come and stop by the meat department. And I started selling them stuff. So man, enthusiasm and just taking, because how you do anything is how you do everything. And I tell people, you got to become the person you want to become before you get that position. So you don't become a manager or a leader once you get put in a leadership position. You become that guy wherever you at, and then it's going to create that position for you.
Absolutely.
A lot of people don't understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that I constantly go back to is stepping into your future self, right? And I've used this example a million times, and I'll say it again for those of you that are watching for the first time or that are listening that haven't heard my spiel. But each and every single one of us, if we were to close our eyes, right? Just in when we take that moment out of the day for ourselves, we just close our eyes, we can visualize how we walk, how we talk, how we dress, how other people react to the things that we say, and how we go about life. That is, in my opinion, right? Even though you're not doing those things today, in my opinion, that is the truest version of yourself, right? That ideal you, which is always at, arm's reach, if you will, right? That's the ideal person. So at the end of the day, so many people get there's a roadblock from where they are right now in their reality to that person that they're visualizing, right? There's something that's holding them back. It's how are they going to look to their friends? How are they going to look to their family? Like, what happens if all of a sudden you start speaking with a little bit more confident when you've always been a little bit more coy, more shy, more this, more that, right? So there's always all of these exterior, these external forces at work to kind of keep you where you are. Kind of going back, right, to how we started off the conversation, just breaking free and not caring and just being you and just saying, hey, this is who I really am. I'm going to go ahead and bring that person into reality. I'm going to step into my future self. It's a big game changer for everybody.
100%. I agree. I agree with that 110, man. You got to be able to future pace yourself. And like you said, step into who you want to become before you become that person. Start dressing a certain type of way, thinking a certain type of way, eating a certain type of way. Like, you don't get ripped by being your present self. Just thinking you eating for the future. You eating, like, I work out simply to play with my grandkids. That's the only reason I work out. And people are like, how old your kids is? I'm like 6 and 4 years old. So I'm working out for the day they have kids. Hopefully they wait, but if they have them early, at least I can play with them and run with them. So I do a lot of things for my future self, man, not my present self.
Yeah, man. And having that vision for the future is so important, right? Because that's what keeps you motivated today. It's what motivates you today. Like, why are you knocking on that door? Right? Why are you making that phone call today? Are you doing it because of today?
Yeah.
So you're doing it for a future event.
And when I'm a firm believer that, visions come vertical. So I believe if God give you a vision and you don't do anything with it, he'll give it to somebody else. So that's why action is so important.
And here's the funny thing about vision, right? And talking about like that the godly call, right? That one feeling that you have inside that you're like, man, like I'm really, really drawn to this. You gotta have the ear. Like, you have to pay attention to that calling, because as silly as it may seem to you, if you have something that's drawing you in a certain direction, you just got to do it. You have to do it, because, man, life is long and there's so many different, aspects of life and business. And, and sometimes I think that too many people look at their bank account for what success is. And of course, I mean, look, it's a modern day scorecard. I get it. I love money. Like I love money. I love what money does. I love what money you can do with money. There's no nobility in being poor. Like, there's just not, right? Like, you can't take your kids to a better school. You can't help your charities. You can't help your mother. You can't help anybody. Like, you're just poor. At that point, all you got is a bunch of opinions. You can't do anything, right? But at the end of the day, like, having money also shouldn't be the one thing where you find your worth, right? And I think that we all have gifts. We just need to figure out what those gifts are and deploy them wherever we are located, right? If it's enthusiasm, if it's bagging, if it's in the meat department, if it's knocking on the door, just go out there and use that enthusiasm and help other people, you know?
Yeah, and I've heard your gifts are the things that come easy to you and it's hard to other people.
Right.
Like it's easy for you to do it because people will see what I do and they're like, man, that's hard. I'm like, nah, it's easy, man. But I've always had that gift of getting in front of people and talking and having fun and just being myself, you know. So that's I knew my gift of coaching as soon as I started doing it because it came too easy. It wasn't a struggle. It wasn't like,
and you enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I enjoyed it, and I got a lot of fun out of it. And a lot of these people that do coaching and training like what we do in our industry, the difference between me and a lot of these people, I've been coaching and training for 5 years. Don't get me wrong, we started Roof Hustlers 4 years ago. But everybody my company hired, I trained them, I coached them, I took them through orientation, I put them in the field. I used to have a team full of canvassers, right? I kept the same team of canvassers for 2.5 years. Do you know how hard it is to keep canvassers, bro? Like, canvassers come and go. Kept the same team for 2.5 years. I used to get them to show up on a Sunday, and we used to do personal development meetings on Sundays, and then we did a regular company meeting on Fridays. And, that's why I really fell in love with the coaching. And the funny part about it, the guy that brought me into the industry, maybe the second week into the industry, he looked at me, he's like, you're going to be my trainer one day. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Not at all, bro. I'm not going to be your trainer. I'm trying to make money and mind my business. And I share that story just to let people know, anytime somebody else can see something in you that you can't see, you got to believe it. Like, you can't fight those things. You got to say, man, if they see it, it must be here.
Right.
Like, they must see something in me. So if you can buy into other people's belief until you got that belief to believe in yourself at a high level, it could take you very far, man.
And negativity, man, and the negative mindset, anybody can fall victim to that. Myself, one of the biggest things that I would hate it. I hate it's a strong word, and I would hate it. It would actually piss me off. Like, I had guys that they would come up to me in my younger years doing sales, and they would pat me on the back and be like, and they'd like whisper in my ear and be like, yo, bro, you got sick talent. And it would actually piss me off, because then I would start like comparing apples to apples, right? Because then all these people were like, you got so much talent, like, oh my God, like this is amazing. But then I'd see like somebody else that like was beating me on the board, and I was like, well, if I can't be that talented, because this other motherfucker over here, like, he's blowing it up, so how talented could I be? And it just goes to show, like, you really got to guard how you talk to yourself, right? The moment that I started to make note of, oh wow, I'm saying something negative to myself, I'm not believing this, I'm not believing that, and then I would catch those conversations in my head and start guiding them in a more positive way, all of a sudden, like, everything started to change, right? So and everybody has those negative thoughts.
100%. With what you said, which is very powerful, I try to teach guys, just run your own race, man. Like, run your own race. Like, I've never looked at somebody else and be like, man, they better than me, man. Maybe I might not be good. I just realized, like, man, we had different phases in our life. We don't have different trainings in our life. We don't have different upbringings. You don't know what that dude do when he go home. He don't know what you do. So just enjoy your race, run your race at your own pace, your own speed. And as you build your stamina up, your willpower up, you're going to be able to pass other people and get to a place. But, when I first started, Becca had way more, she still do got a better, following and, community than I do. But when I first got started, I saw her. I was like, cool. Just started Roof Hustles, and I never paid attention to nobody else in the roofing industry. Believe it or not, Rico, man, I didn't even know there was roofing communities. Like, I didn't know about none of this stuff, bro. I was just doing my thing. And I didn't even get involved into the roofing community until last year, which is my 5th year in the industry, man. Because
right.
my first 4 years, I just ran my own race. I just put out my own content, minded my own business. Like, people would be like, man, you know this person? I'm like, nope. I don't know who that is. You know what I mean? Like, I just do my own thing. So for anybody that want to, start their own podcast, start their own coaching, training, do all these things, man, just go put your blinders on and don't pay attention to nobody else, because you might get discouraged and, get to thinking that you're not where you're supposed to be at. And I tell everybody, you right where you're supposed to be at. You it's all perfect timing, because if you wasn't supposed to be here, you'll be somewhere else. You know what I mean? Take 21 years to turn 21. You can't turn 21 years in 17 years. So enjoy your journey, enjoy your process, and don't rush it, because You know what I mean? I don't know if you ever rush the cake, but you rush the steak, it don't taste the same.
Right.
You know what I mean? You got to let things cook how it's supposed to cook, and it's going to come out delicious.
Exactly. How do you get negative comments on your YouTube or your Instagram, or any haters yet?
Man, I know this sounds wild, but I've got none yet, man. But I think it's because I put out so much love, man. I think I'm so genuine, and I just keep it so G. And, you know, I spread out so much love. The only negative comment I've seen was somebody is like, "You're not allowed to put mail in the mailbox." I'm like, "You're 100% correct, sir." That's exactly how I responded back to him.
You're 100% correct.
I had nothing to come back to that because it's the truth. But if they are negative, man, they just don't got the courage to say it on my post, because my community, they rock with me heavy.
Right.
And they probably would beat them up before I did, but I don't pay them no mind.
The reason why I ask is because part of the reason why a lot of people don't put out content, or they don't put themselves out there, is because they're so concerned about the trolls out there, you know, the keyboard warriors and people that are going to be like, "Oh man, you know, they're criticizing me on this or criticizing me on that, like this and that." So they've got all of this, you know, again, they're projecting, right? Stuff that hasn't even happened yet is preventing them from even getting out there. So I was just wondering if you had any advice on that.
Yeah, I don't even got that yet, man. But if I was to give advice, I'll just say, don't pay it no mind. And I know that's easier said than done. Or if you do pay it mind, so Eric Thomas, that's one of my like digital mentors. I love him. I'm going to his conference next month in Atlanta. But they do this thing where they make a parody out of their negative comments. So at the end of their show, they'll play Taylor Swift song, Shake It Off, because the haters gonna hate. So they'll play that song in the background, and they read all their negative comments, and they just laugh them off.
That's great. Right.
And it's like, why not just, you know, in the book, The Greatest Salesman of the World.
Which, by the way, is one of my, if you've heard any of my stuff, seen any of my stuff, if I could choose one book, what my number one gift book is The Greatest Salesman in the World. Author Og Mandino. Again, going back, now I understand why you believe in universal principles and why you're such a good salesperson, because that is the absolute best all-time read for anybody in any sales capacity whatsoever. And it doesn't talk about tactics, and it doesn't talk about strategies. It talks about universal principles. Greatest Salesman in the World. It's a must read. Go ahead.
And it's funny you say that, because people ask me, they say, "Man, what separates you from all these other coaches?" I say, I teach principles. All these other guys teach strategies and tactics. Like, I got 11 door-to-door roof commandments and 11 principles that if you abide by them, they give you success while you're knocking doors. But like Og Mandino say, though, I will laugh at the world. You know what I mean? I will, you know, we're the only creature on this world, on this planet, that can laugh, and there got to be something behind it. So if you got haters, man, give them some love, laugh at them. You know what I mean? When we knocking doors and people curse me out, I literally look at them and laugh, like I give them a really good laugh in their face, and that make them 10 times more angry. And I'm like, "Man, you have a blessed day."
I will greet this day with love in my heart.
You know what I mean? So that's what I would tell anybody who got negative, getting hate online, man. Track all the hate, play Taylor Swift, laugh.
Like Taylor Swift. I think that might be a bit too much for some people. Like, Taylor Swift, I can't handle all that. So anyway, so now we started talking about some books. One of my favorite topics is books. Obviously, you're a reader. What would be some of your best picks, some of the must reads, some of the most influential books that you've read that have really impacted your life?
Of course, The Art of Persuasion by Robert Cialdini or Cialdini. I can't even think of his last name, but it's The Art of Persuasion. Phenomenal book. I love Power versus Force by David Hawkins. Amazing book, man. Not even to do with sales, but The Fatherhood Principles by Miles Monroe really changed my whole mindset on being a dad. And for my dads, it's a book called 52 Things Daughters Need from Their Daddy, and then 52 Things Sons Need from Their Dad. That was a phenomenal read. Of course, you got, Think and Grow Rich. You got, 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. That's a really good one. Any John C. Maxwell leadership book.
How good do you think Grant Cardone really is as a salesperson?
I think he's a better marketer than salesperson.
Amen. Okay, good.
Yeah. I never watched his interview with him and the Wolf yet, but I think he'll be
painful. It's painful. It was painful.
I heard it's bad.
Painful. For anybody who's in sales, it was painful.
Yeah, I heard it was interesting.
Yeah.
But,
And another thing that I think was talking about Grant Cardone. Grant Cardone, first of all, I think he's a fantastic marketer, like amazing marketer. And to some degree, like, look, he understands sales. You don't get to the position you are without sales, right? Like you just don't, like, I'm not taking anything away from him. However, there are some things that are a little bit comical. I went to one of his 10X events.
Yep.
And this is why, man, you got to be really careful when you put shit out there, because then you'll get somebody that'll call you out. For example, I didn't get called up on stage, man. I wish it would have been me, but it wasn't. It was some dude in the front row. And basically he was going through this presentation on, basically how to get a sale, right? Like how to get the guy to sign on the dotted line. So he brings up some random dude to the stage who's never been on a stage before in his life. There's 25,000 people in the arena. I don't care who you are, you're going to get some butterflies in your stomach. You know, the guy was nervous, right? So so Grant Cardone's like selling, he's doing his thing, and comes down to the close and asks this guy, I don't know, arbitrary number, let's just call it 10,000. I think it was like 25,000, but let's just call it 10 because I don't remember. The guy's like, so Grant Cardone is asking for the order, and the guy's like, oh, well, I don't have the money right now. I got to move it around. Grant Cardone does something. He's like, well, where do you hold the money? He's like, oh, well, I'll have it in my business account. And he's like, all right, great. Then just sign this and then you can get back to me later. And I'm like sitting there as a salesperson. I'm like, what? I'm like, what? Did Grant Cardone just let this guy like off the hook with just a signature and an IOU? And I was like, man, this just goes to show like when you're that far removed, because like as a business owner, if someone says, hey, I've got money, I can't wire you the money, but it's in my business account. Well, what do you have attached to your business account? You have a debit card attached to your business account. Like where are those credit card numbers? Like, where's that money? So it's like just a pursuit of like some of these sales gurus. Sometimes they'll like draw these people onto the stage that have never been on stage before. And then they'll try to demonstrate how good they are at selling with a very, very docile individual, right? Or like on some of these sales videos, right? Well, they're doing a impromptu, basically they're doing it to what we call a TO, a takeover, right? Where they're like, the salesperson is struggling and then he comes in and is like, hey, how's it going? Yeah. My name is Grant Cardone. It's like, oh shit, Grant, dude, that's it. The phone call is done. Like the sale is done. The moment that the guy says, oh shit, Grant, is that you? You're not even selling at that point. You're just taking an order because now the guy's already so enthralled in who you are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like, it's just one of those things. I think people get that kind of stuff mixed up. And a lot of people swear by Grant Cardone as a great salesperson. I'm not taking anything away from him, but I definitely don't think he's like the best.
No, I love Uncle G. I love Uncle G for his mindset, not for his sales. I think Myron Golden is the best salesman I've ever seen.
I've heard some fantastic things about Myron.
I've never met anybody that compares to Myron.
Yeah. He does this thing. Have you gone to any of his seminars?
Yeah, I've been to 3 of his trainings. I'm going to his training next week.
Doesn't he always do the, he calls it, I don't know if it's framing or something, but basically he just starts his first day of a seminar or whatever it is that he's selling with a super high ticket. And he leaves it up there like throughout his entire event. And
that's why I learned enrollment from.
Yeah. Which is the buy-in, right?
Yeah, well, you get people to do subtle actions all week, all for the 3-day event. So he always have people come. So what he does with them is say, here, come into class. And I don't mean to teach his stuff because I don't want nobody to really know what he do, Right. A wizard. But, he come in there, he say, hey, who here want to, if I can show you how to sell $1 million and da-da-da, say I, da-da-da-da, say me. And so he getting them enrolled. Then he get them filling in the blank. He'll be like, the best type of homeowner is a educated homeowner. Best type of homeowner is a educated. So now he done got them enrolled and got them bought in. And at the end of the weekend, he just said, hey man, if you want to make some money and change your life, everybody stand up right now. And the whole crowd just stand up, bro. It is crazy to watch in person, man. It's one of the best things ever. Because I go to his training, so I know what he's doing. So I'm watching it in action and I'm like, it is amazing how nobody knows. Like nobody psychological, and even when you know, you still get it. Can get you, right? Which is crazy. So studying Myron has took my sales to an entire new level, and that's why I'm able to like move people on the doors the way I can, because I've learned some like super deep training things from Myron. And that's why I tell companies, I'm like, man, you should never be getting coached by a coach who don't got a coach. If somebody telling you they don't got coaches, they don't got mentors, they shouldn't be talking to your people, because now they're just telling you like opinions.
Right.
You know what I mean? You need somebody with valid, solid, tangible information, because information changes situations. But yeah, Myron, the best salesman I've ever seen, man, hands down, point blank period. Like all these other guys good. Because one thing I learned from Myron, you don't need more money, you need more people.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get a group of people in one room and sell them all at once, you can do some amazing things, man.
Yeah. Myron's, how much are Myron's, his workshops? I mean, they're expensive, aren't they?
Like 30 bands, 50 grand, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
But he sell it so good. He say, what if I can help you make $1 million? Would you give me 30 grand?
Yep. And then he puts that $50,000 figure up there on the board, and he lets it marinate. And the whole psychology, from what I understand, is from what I've heard him say, is you let that marinate, and you're just letting it marinate there from day one, from moment one. And it's a shock factor, and it's supposed to be a shock factor. But then throughout the days of training,
so much value,
all of a sudden you're like, wait, hold on. It goes from right. And it just goes to show the power of one little word. Because then in your mind, you'll be like, you know what? It's only 50 grand. And then you start doing the math. You're like, hey, how many more sales do I need to make to cover this? No, man, if I could just have this one skill, it's a game changer. Yeah, he's amazing.
So psychologically powerful that he said you put only in front of any number, and that's all it is. It's only that.
It's only that.
So when I teach my guys when we go sell, I'm like, it's only $2,500 for a deductible.
Right.
It's only $2,500.
Yeah, just.
Right. Yeah, so I learned a lot of stuff from Myron. He's one of my favorites. I swear by that dude. Like, and I love it because he teaches from principles. He don't teach tactics and strategies. He teaches principles, and he teaches from the Bible, and I love that.
Right. So besides Myron, who else do you like out there in the online space that you think people should pay attention to in order to up their skills and stuff?
Coach Burt, love Coach Michael Burt, the super coach. He's one of my favorite. I'm a big fan of Eric Thomas. He's not like a great salesman or nothing, but he teaches those principles, those life principles that help you live a holistic life of success. Because what's money without the family? What's money without your health? So he teaches that holistic lifestyle. I love Inky Johnson, love those people. Of course, Brian Tracy, a good salesman. I study his stuff. Oren Claff, hands down, one of my favorite. He like one of the best psychological people I know, Oren Claff as well. Never Split the Difference and Flip the Script, 2 phenomenal books. And then there's a dude, I can't think of his name, maybe it's a female. They wrote a book called Challenger Sales. Phenomenal book as well, man. And then my boy Simon Sinek, he's not a salesman, but he's really good at selling you on why his points are really good. And I think you got to be able to pick up lessons from everybody, and people want it to be black and white. And it's not the black and white, it's the stuff between the lines that you got to be catching. And people ask me like how I teach the stuff I teach. I say, because when I read books to connect and to build. I don't read books to just read. So as I'm reading, I'm connecting the dots in my life. And when I was in a situation when I should have did this, when I should have did that, and I can come up with a whole training off of that stuff.
Right. So something recently that I've been into quite a bit is developing a secondary brain. Right. So, and what I mean by that is I read quite a bit. However, you don't get to retain 100% of what you read. Right. And for a long time, I did reading passively. So in other words, I was like, oh, I want to read this sales book or this marketing book or this whatever book, and I'm just going to read it. And hopefully by osmosis, I'll be able to, have some positive impact in my life, right? Because why do you pick up a book? You pick up a book because you want something from that book. You're trying to draw what's in that book, that knowledge, those tactics, those strategies, and implement it into your life. But most of us, myself included, we do it very, very passively. So now I've been recently on this kick where I've been using, I read a lot on my Kindle just because it's easy and you have your library with you no matter where you are. And obviously, you know how you can highlight your Kindle, right? And you can make notes in your Kindle and all of that stuff. Well, now I'm using an app called Readwise. right? And what that does is it syncs all of your highlights, all of your notes, and it sends you a daily reminder of everything. You can have like specific settings, right? So now your highlights will come on a daily email. But then you take it a step further, and now we've been using an app called Notion, which is essentially a note-taking app. And you can sync the Readwise, which is drawing everything from your Kindle. It'll draw it in and put it into Notion, into your book, into a book file. And now what I've been doing is, instead of reading so passively, now typically what I'm doing is I'm reading while I have Notion up, and I'm being much more conscious of what I'm reading and the points that really touch me, that really are impactful to my life, or that I want to recall later on. And it's so easy to start creating little tags and a little category, system for all of your reading. And now that I've been doing that, and I haven't perfected the system yet, there's tons of like information on YouTube where you can find on developing a secondary brain. But it's totally amazing. Could you imagine if you would have done this with all of the books that you ever read? And at any moment you could just type in motivation, mindset, whatever, right? And you get all of the quotes, everything for that you've ever highlighted, all of your thoughts on those. And then you can open it up and you've got a whole like contextual breakdown of everything that you read. I think that's an amazing practice that from here on out, that's kind of how I'm reading all of my books because it's like, if you're already spending the time, why not spend another 15 minutes per chapter regurgitating in your own words, processing what you just read?
I like that. That's actually, because I don't like reading digitally. I just read my first book digitally, which is The Greatest Secret in the World by Og Mandino.
Which is a fantastic book also.
Yeah, that's good too. But
is that the one with the God memorandum?
No, that is
The Greatest Miracle in the World.
Miracle in the World.
Which is also a fantastic book.
They all good, man. Another good book, man, completely on top is
Napoleon Hill's Outwitting the Devil: The Secret to Freedom and Success by Napoleon Hill.
Phenomenal book. And it's scary too. Phenomenal.
Scary, right? Because it's so true and how accurate it is, right? So, so these are all like, this is the new method that I've been using to develop a secondary brain. There's a gentleman by the name, let me see. I got to look him up for you now because it's really that good. He's a doctor. And he just does a bunch of YouTube videos. He does like YouTube videos on everything. So, his note-taking practices and all of this great stuff. Let me see, Notion. Yeah. Ali Abal, I think, Abdaal. He's got like 2 million subscribers, but he's got tons of information on how he uses Notion, Readwise, and all of these different apps to read, process, basically create like different types of almost like a book report for yourself. And that way, at any point in time, you've got your secondary brain. If it's something that you think of, let's say, for example, like John Maxwell, it's got tons of great content, right? Tons of great books. And within each one of his books, like you could highlight for days because he's got all of these different other books and quotes and stuff like that you're like, man, I wish I could recall like all of this. Another guy, old book, it's called Pushing to the Front. It is literally every single page that you read, there's a highlight in there. Like, it's just fantastic. And there's no way for you to like categorize all of that in your brain. So to have like a secondary method to take notes on it is just a great method to have.
No, I'm definitely look into that, man. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, man. So we've talked about sales and we've talked about all of that. Besides your Instagram, like what are you doing for marketing? What are you doing to primarily getting your word out there?
So we do YouTube. That's what we started at on YouTube. We do free teaching on YouTube. We do mindset on Instagram, and then I just be myself on Facebook. But our Facebook group, we got a Roof Hustlers Facebook group. We just hit 3,000 in like a year, man, which is pretty awesome. Because when I got it, what happened was people rock with the brand so much, man. Somebody made the group themselves. There's only 76 people in there before I took it over. Went to the dude, told him, hey, love what you did, man. Can I get the admin password? He was like, yeah. I just love what you do. I wasn't trying to mock you or nothing. I'm sorry. I'm like, nah, bro, it's all good. Gave me the password. We started promoting it. We took it from 76, and now we got it up to 3,000 people. So then we got the Roof Hustlers page on Facebook. So we just do we just started the TikTok page as well. I fought it for so long, bro, because I'm like, I ain't no TikToker, man. that. But then I got to thinking, I'm like, man, we could bring the same value to TikTok, and then the algorithm over there haven't been figured out yet. So we can grow faster on TikTok, use that reach to push it to Instagram, push it to YouTube. So we got YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, and then the Instagram.
Nice. Anything? Are you doing anything on LinkedIn?
Oh, yep. We got LinkedIn too. I'm glad you reminded me of that. We got all these platforms, bro. It's so hard to control them all, honestly. But I'm blessed because, you know, by the grace of God, man, we don't do no marketing. We playing high level street ball. We like &1 right now because we trained 28 companies in the last 2 years, and we didn't solicit &1. It all was just authentic, organic growth. So once I do start marketing and doing my commercials and pushing it like everybody else, I only can imagine the impact that we're gonna have.
Right. Yeah, I think it's going to be absolutely amazing, man. Especially with all the testimonials.
Because my marketing gonna be so authentic, man. I don't even want to share, but I'm about to make a rap door-to-door video. Like, it's gonna be crazy, bro.
Nice. Absolutely.
We're trying to do stuff that nobody else doing. And as far like I went and bought a gold chain, like I bought this big Roof Hustlers chain, and you know what I mean? It's like we trying to keep it as authentic as possible. And a lot of people was like, man, why you bought a gold chain? And I told them where I come from, growing up in the hood, you know, having a chain signifies that you was a hustler, like you was getting money, like you was making things happen. Because if you broke, you can't do that.
Right.
You know. So we went and bought a nice Cuban link with the logo, with the Roof Hustlers bow tie on there. So we try to keep it as authentic and as original and as different as possible than everybody else. So our marketing gonna be completely different than what everybody else do. Most people just pop up on screen and like, hey, you're tired of doing this? Like, we gonna be doing little skits, the whole nine, man. So it's gonna be pretty fun.
Yeah, man. I mean, if you could go ahead and you know, put a smile on somebody's face with your marketing, with your advertising, it just goes such a long way. It's tough though, man. You know, it takes a whole lot. You have to be in a totally different level to be able to go out there and just, you know, put ads out there to the masses and just be acting a fool. But, you know, you could pull it off.
But we gonna do it.
Yeah. What is it? The Harmon brothers, right? The Hartman brothers, the ones that do like the poopery commercials and what is it? The Squatty Potty, like all of those, they're the ones that really started developing that like comical type of advertising. Like it's just, and now that's like one of the biggest trends. Like those videos have millions and millions and millions of views on them.
I think it's just more relatable.
Yeah. But you know what? It's funny. It's also too in the beginning where it's like when you first watch this, you're like, is this it makes you stop and say, is this a commercial? Like, am I being sold something? And it's just so funny that you just have to continue watching it. And then you realize that it's an actual product. And if you look at some of their comments, you'll be like, this commercial was so comical that I'm going to buy the product anyways. Mm-hmm. You know, people just buy based on that alone. So you got a lot going on. When can we expect, you know, that next push for Roof Hustlers, man? Like when are you thinking about rolling out those ads, you know, trying to get, you know, some people in the door?
That big push gonna be the music video. Like I said, it's gonna be a door-to-door music video, man. I already got it done. We just gotta go record it, and then me and my camera guys gonna get it whipped up and create some great content. So that's gonna be the next big push. We're probably gonna drop that fourth quarter. Third quarter, we just did the interview with Dmitry Lipinski. We got all of these conferences coming up, so I might be speaking at RoofCon, speaking at the roofing conference as well. So those might be some good, events to push the brand at a higher level. And then we're just working on finishing up the book. I'm working on my new book called The Epitome of a Hustler. So we're finishing that up as well. We probably want to have that out by like spring of next year. Nice. We don't want to rush it. We want to give it some really good thought and, put some really good thought process into it. But those are the next big things that we're working on. And we're working on a mentorship program as well. We're getting the online platform put together. So we got a lot of stuff that we're cooking up on, but I'm that guy I just like to work, man. I know people that like to post every little picture of every review, every little comment, every little testimony. And I just like to enjoy them, man, because I don't need that to show people that we make an impact. So I just like to keep working, man, even when nobody watching.
That's when it's important, man. Everybody, that's really where the magic happens, is behind the scenes and just kind of grinding away. And that's, I think, what makes people question, but like, yo, where did it all come from? Like, how How did you become so successful? How did you get, this many followers? How are you having this much of an impact? Well, I'm not posting every time that I'm like behind the computer and doing all this stuff, right?
Yeah,
Writing the books.
This morning we woke up at the last 2 days. I've been studying to put on a free training for the night. Most people don't do that stuff. You know what I mean? Most people just give you stuff they already got created. I studied new information so I could show up to this training and deliver high for these guys. But, I ain't going to post a picture like studying, you know what I mean? Putting in the work. We just put in the work. I woke up at 5 this morning, got everything done. And, I got to go make some more kits once we done, still taking care of my home. I had to just reorganize my kids' dresses and everything. And I heard Rick Ross say something that's very powerful. And Rick Ross said, how you not rich yet and you don't even outwork the rich man? Like, you don't even outwork the dude that already got a lot of money. How you ever expect to have a lot of money? So I just look at it as like, if the rich man golfing, I shouldn't be golfing, bro.
Right.
I
outwork the rich man.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So that's my motto this year. Well, my word for the year was finish. But yeah, I'm just trying to outwork the rich man. If the rich man on the boat fishing, I want to be putting in work. If they're on vacation in Croatia or all these places, don't get me wrong, I know you need a vacation, but while they want to vacate, I'm going to keep putting in the work. I'm going to keep grinding. That way the next time I'm on vacay, it's going to be the way I really want to do it. So right now we just staying focused, man. Keep putting in the work because we still got a lot more work to do.
Besides how busy you are, do you find the time to write down your goals, do any kind of journaling, any kind of like morning or evening routine?
Always. I got a big morning routine. I wake up 5:30 every day. I probably write for 30 minutes. I read for 45 minutes. We go to the gym. We work on new content. We study new information. I keep a whiteboard in my room. I got a vision board on my wall as well that got all the goals for this year. And I done already received some of those visions this year already, but now I'm big on declarations. I'm big on words of affirmation. I do all of those things daily because motivation, you got to do this stuff every day. You just don't do it on Monday and hope it carry you through Friday.
Yeah, Zig Ziglar says something about that, right? That like motivation is like showering or bathing. Yep. Right? It's good, but you have to do it every single day. If you want it to stick, you got to do it every single day. Do you notice that not enough people or not everybody that has goals actually jots them down, writes them down, and has a clear vision for themselves?
Well, yeah, Tom Hopkins said most people spend more time planning their 2-week vacation than they do planning their own life. So I think it's important that you write down your goals, your visions, because it's an amazing, and don't write them down on a Kindle. Don't write them down in a tablet. You got to put it on paper because it's such a magical connection from brain to hand to paper that makes it more tangible and more realistic. And, I keep 2 pieces of paper that I write my goals on. I write roofing goals and I write personal goals. And we try to update them every quarter. And we wake up and read them every day. Like the goal this year was to train 25 companies. And right now I think we got 23 booked. 23
nice.
booked.
Nice. Awesome, man. Well, anyways, I'm going to go ahead and close it off at this point. If someone wants to reach Dashaun Roof Hustlers, how do you recommend they get a hold of you?
Follow us on Instagram at Roof Hustlers, Facebook Roof Hustlers, YouTube Roof Hustlers, LinkedIn Roof Hustlers. We try to be easy to find. On Facebook is actually Dashaun Bryant. That's Dashaun Bryant like Kobe. But yeah, so Roof Hustlers everywhere you go except for Facebook is Dashaun Bryant, man. And it's really been an honor being on the show today. Some great conversation. Like you said, man, you just go at the flow, but there's some really good topics, man. So I really appreciated that. And, like I always say, baby, hustle hard, hustle smart, and don't be afraid to bogart, man.
Let's do it.
You've been listening to Restoration Domination, interviewing the restoration business's top industry insiders, the movers and shakers, the hustlers and hackers. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on Instagram. Find Rico at Rico Garcia Jr. Find Ecotech Pro at Ecotech Pro. And check out the YouTube channel at Ecotech Pro. Till next time, this is Restoration Domination. Hustle, hack, dominate.